Hello and welcome to all. Prison history has often been punctuated with stories of spectacular escapes that have captured the public's attention and made the media's headlines. Indeed, these stories combine all the ingredients of action and suspense films, and it's not for nothing that series like Prison Break has been a hit with audiences always on the lookout for new adventures and a good dose of adrenaline. So, make yourself comfortable, because today we're going to present the 7 most spectacular prison breaks ever. Let's get started. Yoshi Shiratori. Some people are really not meant to be locked up, and no man-made prison can hold them. Yoshi Shiratori is undoubtedly one of those people, having made 4 masterful escapes from some of Japan's most heavily guarded prisons during his lifetime. Shiratori was first arrested in 1933, at the age of 26, on suspicion of murder and robbery with other accomplices. Prosecutors demanded the death penalty, but he managed to escape from Aomori prison in 1936, using a simple piece of wire to open his handcuffs. However, he was soon caught by the authorities and was sentenced this time to life imprisonment. Shiratori then escaped from Akita prison once again in 1942, passing through the air ducts that he had spent a lot of time studying every nook and cranny of it. Unfortunately for him, he was once again quickly caught and incarcerated, this time in Abashiri prison in the far north of Japan. However, and despite the high surveillance that reigned in this prison, the Japanese escape ace managed to escape in 1944 using an incredibly clever technique. Shiratori had indeed rusted his handcuffs, as well as the peephole of his cell door, by pouring miso soup on them regularly, which allowed him after some time to break them very easily. Shiratori could not celebrate his escape for too long, however, because once again he was caught by justice and his fine bloodhounds, and was arrested in 1946, just after the end of the Second World War. The court in Sapporo sentenced him to death in 1947, but while awaiting his execution in prison, he escaped by sawing the floor of his cell with a sharp piece of sheet metal and digging a tunnel with a bowl. Eventually, Shiratori, tired of being a fugitive, decided to turn himself in to the police in 1948, at the age of 41, and was granted clemency by the justice system, which decided to commute his sentence to 20 years in prison instead of executing him, and the ace of the escape remained wisely in detention this time, until his release in 1961. Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers. The 1962 Alcatraz escape is still considered today to be one of the most mysterious and enigmatic escapes in the history of American prisons. It was on the night of June 11, 1962, that 3 inmates of Alcatraz High Security Federal Prison, at the time the most famous and secure penitentiary in the United States, managed the feat of escaping from it on a makeshift raft after digging through the wall of their cell. The 3 escapees, Frank Morris and brothers Clarence Anglin and John Anglin, had spent many months working out every detail of their escape plan, and Morris proved to be an excellent strategist and a man of superior intelligence. His ingenious plan called for mannequins in the shape of human heads to be made from toilet paper and soap to make the guards think they were asleep. The 3 accomplices then began digging a tunnel near the floor at the bottom of their cells, and Morris had even managed to make a mini drill from an electric vacuum cleaner motor to speed up the drilling. Once the hole was big enough for them to get through, they rushed in, leaving behind them a 4th friend and accomplice in the escape, Alan West, who unfortunately for him was very fat and had not been able to get through the hole in the cell. And to leave the island, the ingenious Frank Morris had even made a makeshift raft out of glue and about 50 raincoats from other inmates. The 3 escapees have since given no sign of life, and the mystery surrounding their survival and the success of their escape plan remains to this day, as no bodies have been found in the waters surrounding the island. Choi Gap Bak. Caging a yoga master is not really a very good idea, especially if the cage is not completely airtight and watertight. For example, Choi Gap Bak, a South Korean detained at the Daegu City Police Station, who had been practicing yoga for 23 years, had no trouble sneaking out of his cell and running away on the police officers' noses and beards. With the extreme flexibility he had inherited from years of training, Choi was able to insert his previously oiled contortionist body into a tiny slot at the bottom of his cell door, which was used to pass meal trays to the inmates. The South Korean Houdini was thus able to pass through the 12.7 centimeters high and 43.18 centimeters wide opening without difficulty, all in less than 35 seconds, a feat that would make Criss Angel blush. Nevertheless, Choi took the worry to put a pillow on his bed and cover it with sheets to make the guards think he was still asleep, a technique he would have seen in an American escape film. The ace of contortion has since been running around in the wilderness, and despite the authorities' research and the considerable resources deployed, it remains more elusive than mercury. Joaquin Guzman. Better known under the nickname El Chapo, which he owes to his small size, Joaquin Guzman was a Mexican mafia man who ran the Sinaloa cartel, specialized in assassinations and international drug trafficking. This little man, no taller than 3 apples, was indeed the big boss of the most dangerous and powerful cartel in Mexico, if not the world, and was for a long time one of the most wanted fugitives on the planet. Guzman was finally captured in 1993 in Guatemala, extradited and sentenced to 20 years in prison in Mexico for murder and drug trafficking. He was then incarcerated in federal maximum security prison, but in 2001, after bribing the guards, he escaped by hiding in a dirty laundry basket, helped by his small height of 160 centimeters, and left the prison in a laundry car. El Chapo once again became the #1 fugitive and was then wanted by the governments of Mexico and the United States as well as by Interpol. After a long escape that also allowed him to increase the power of his cartel, El Chapo will finally be arrested in 2014 by the Mexican Navy and the U.S. DEA and will be put under arrest at the Altiplano High Security Prison in Mexico. However, Guzman escaped again on the 11th of July 2015, using a tunnel more than 1.5 kilometers long dug 10 meters deep between his cell and a building under construction outside the prison walls. This incredible escape will be widely publicized by the world, and will even have the effect of undermining the credibility of the Mexican government. However, the drug baron will not have time to celebrate the success of his escape, as he will be arrested again just a few months later, in January 2016. This time he will be extradited to the United States, where he will be tried and sentenced to life plus 30 years, and is currently serving his sentence at ADX Florence, America's safest supermax prison. Rustam Shakratdinov. Having a supple body can often help you get out of bad situations, especially if you are condemned to languish in a shabby Russian prison. For example, Rustam Shakratdinov, a 25-year-old Russian man, escaped from Izberbash prison in the Caucasus, where he was locked up after being convicted of theft. The young convict was able to use his astonishing body shape and extreme suppleness to sneak out of his cell through a tiny trapdoor used to pass food to the inmates. His act was even caught entirely by one of the prison's cameras, and we can clearly see Rustam coming out of his cell almost naked before he gets dressed in the corridor, and leave quietly as if nothing had happened. Called the Snake Man by the media, Rustam is still on the run and his incredible escape has quickly gone viral on social networks. Michel Vajo. One of the most emblematic methods of escape in Hollywood films is without a doubt the escape by air, using a helicopter to pick up the detainee and take him to the freedom he so much hoped for. In truth, this spectacular method of escape has been used by many prisoners in recent years, especially in France, so much so that today it is called the French escape. Escape by helicopter has also been extremely popular thanks to Michel Vajo and above all to his wife, Nadine, who did not hesitate to borrow a helicopter from Saint-Cyr-l'École airport to fly to the rescue of her husband imprisoned at the Prison de la Santé in Paris. The loyal wife had to take flying lessons beforehand to be able to handle the helicopter, and once the helicopter hovered over the prison yard, she threw a fishing rod with a hook and a weapon to her husband, and then the helicopter. The couple then successfully escaped by landing on a nearby football field and the two lovers then sped off in a car that was waiting for them. However, their happiness will be short-lived, as Vajo will be caught a few months later during a robbery that went wrong. He was finally released in 2003, after spending 27 years in prison, 17 of which were spent in solitary confinement in the SHU, thanks to a record 16 years of remission. Antonio Ferrara. Antonio Ferrara is known as Nino or Suco, and also nicknamed the King of Beauty, is an ancient figure of the great French banditry. On March 12, 2003, while Ferrara was incarcerated in Fresnes prison, a commando of a dozen men wearing fluorescent police jackets and armbands, hooded and heavily armed, attacked the Fresnes prison with explosives to free him. Ferrara's escape from Ferrara is very well prepared. He does everything he can to end up in the prison's isolation, the most effective place for the escape operation. He, therefore, refuses to be searched when leaving a visiting room, and in this way finds himself in the disciplinary quarter near the back door of the prison. In the middle of the night, his accomplices set fire to cars in the suburbs to keep the firefighters and the police busy. During the night attack, the overwhelmed guards barely reacted from a watchtower, attacked with an AK-47 assault rifle, and the operation, which lasted approximately 10 minutes, was a great success. The commando blew up 2 successive armored doors, using explosives and rocket launchers, while Ferrara himself blew up the gates of his cell with explosives supplied by his accomplices. The King of Beauty then flees to the south of France. In the months that follow, 14 perpetrators and accomplices are arrested, including Corsican bandits such as Dominique Bettini. But in the end, this great show of force was of little use, since just a few months later, Ferrara was arrested again by the Brigade of Repression of Banditry, the famous BRP. So, what do you think of these 7 most spectacular escapes of all time? Which one impressed you the most? Don't forget to leave us your comments.